Hey, what's good, self-direct investors? I hope you're all doing great, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jordan. I'm the mind behind Make More Capital, and today I'm coming at you with a special standalone video to recap Trulieve and TerrAscend's recent Q4 and full 2020 fiscal year earnings. So before we jump in, if you enjoy this video or you learn something, all I ask is that you leave a like on it, as it really helps out my channel. And then, of course, if you want to learn how to take advantage of this generational investment opportunity, make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss any future videos, and there's plenty of content that you can go back rewatching it caught up to speed on. Now, I don't have my mic today. I'm using headphones because there's some construction going on in the elevator and I happen to live right beside it. So annoyingly, there's a drill going. So I'm hoping with these you don't pick it up, and let's hope this doesn't take me too many takes to get through because it's quite distracting. But nonetheless, Trulieve reports record revenue of $168.4 million, a 24% sequential increase, building on their national expansion and achieving the 12th consecutive quarter of profitability, which is very impressive. So if we just go down to the numbers, this section here covers for the 3 months ended. So basically September 30, 2020 covers Q3, which were sales from July, August, and September of 2020. And now what we're looking at for December 31, end of December 31, is Q4, which covers sales from October, November, and December of 2020. Now, if we look over here, this covers end of Q4, or this just covers Q4 2019 versus Q4 of 2020 alone. And then this one is the full fiscal year 2019 compared to 2020. But mind you, numbers across the board are all very impressive. Total revenue up to $168.4 million, up from $136.3 just 3 months ago, with a 24% increase of over $30 million. From Q4 2019 to Q4 2020, going from 79.7 to 168.4 is very strong growth, and their year-over-year change is phenomenal, especially when you factor in the fact that there was a global pandemic and there was the worst economic recession we've seen in over a decade. You know, don't sleep on cannabis because this industry is very resilient. And they're showing a change from end of 2019 full year, $252.8 million in revenue to $521.5, a change of 106% year over year. Now their gross profits, keeping them high, 119.9, basically 120, up from 102. Now 120 up from 64 last Q4 2019. But look at their year over year, 191.8 in gross profit in 2019 to 386.4 of gross profit in 2020. Look how much of their gross profit is making up their revenue. That is such healthy growth at 74% gross profit margin. So phenomenal, Trulieve. It's making me wish I had at least opened a small position in you guys as well for the long term. But hey, I chose what I chose based on what I knew at the time, but this is just very healthy and great to see, especially because all four of the big MSOs, mainly Curaleaf, Cresco, Green Thumb, and Trulieve, all took different approaches. And Trulieve's main was to dominate a single state, Florida first and foremost, and then expand out of there. Now, because they are expanding, though, their operating expenses have increased. Mind you, as long as you're spending more money to make more money, you just want to make sure that your revenues and your gross profit are offsetting what you're spending. And so although this did increase, that's the cost of getting into Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, these new markets that they're getting into. Now, last few things, their net income was just $3 million, down from 17.4 end of Q3. Mind you, this signifies that they're using, positive net income that they've made to fund their expansion, which is what you want to see in a company. And when you compare year over year from 2019 to 2020, they increased their net income, their positive net income, from 53.9 to 63 still, an increase of 19% year over year. But more importantly, their adjusted EBITDA marker, which is the main profitability marker, up to 78.2% from 65.8, but year over year, in 2019, they did 126.4 in adjusted EBITDA, and finishing this year in 2020 with 251, $250 million, up 99%. That is impressive, and that is where Trulieve is really cutting their operating costs by honing on their strategy in a single state, and that clearly is showing that they're one of the stronger MSOs going forward. And so with their continued Trulieve's expansion into Pennsylvania, their continued growth in Florida, as well as the company's Massachusetts, Connecticut, and California locations, they're continuing their growth outside of their main state, which is giving them confidence to project revenue for 2021 around $815 to $850 million. If they can beat that, even better. Mind you, just look at how much of their adjusted EBITDA. I mean, this is almost half of their 2020, but obviously it's going to cost a bit more to expand, but with an adjusted EBITDA of positive $355 million to $375 million, this would be an amazing year for 2021. And I have to point out again that only 16 states are legal for adult use, 36 more are required to reform their laws, and then 38 are legal for medical. There's still 12 more to go, so there's so much room for expansion. And on top of that, their operational highlights for the year, they did announce that the U.S. SEC declared Trulieve's resale registration statement on Form S1 effective on February 4th, 2021, thereby making Trulieve a U.S. reporting company, so they will be ready to uplist once they get the green light for that. They have approved to start growing plants in their Massachusetts facility. They expanded their national footprint in the Northeast with closings of the acquisitions in Solevo Wellness, adding 3 operational dispensaries in Pennsylvania, and PurePen, adding a cultivator and processor so that they can keep Solevo Wellness filled in Pennsylvania. And then lastly, entering their 6th state with the award of a processor permit for West Virginia. Now, West Virginia's market is very far out from being set up and ready to go, but that gives them a task for what they're expanding in 2021. And that being said, they opened 11 new retail dispensaries in the 4th quarter alone, ending the year with 75 stores in the U.S. And I believe Trulieve is up to about 82 or 83 as of March 23rd right now. So they've added over 200,000 square feet of cultivation facilities as well, so they will be able to grow endless amounts of cannabis. And they ended 2020 with a 49% market share in oil and a 53% market share in flower in the state of Florida. Just shows that domination in a single state with a large population and a massive medical market, which is growing from like 250,000 patients to 500,000 patients, helped by Trulieve. It's just phenomenal to see that. And they are retaining patients because once you use cannabis medicinally, you do not want to go back to opioids. Cannabis is the exit drug, which, again, we're going to find out more and more. So their financial highlights, we've gone through all this, but I want to highlight that they delivered $100 million, $99.6 million in cash flow from operations for the year. And that is what you want to see, an entity creating cash flow. That is how businesses become sustainable over long periods of time. So amazing numbers out of Trulieve, really setting the tone, and Cresco will announce their earnings on Thursday the 25th, so we're just waiting for that. Now we're going to jump over to TerrAscend as they report their 2020 financial results. And so something to point out though, their results are in Canadian dollars, so we're going to jump down to the all the numbers and go through that, but I want to point out that they did issue guidance for 2021, and they've done that in US dollars. So when they say USD 290 million guidance for 2021, that's about 364 million Canadian dollars, which would be almost a 100% year-over-year increase. So just wanted to point that out. But if we jump down and go through their numbers for TerrAscend, net sales from Q4 up from Q3, 65%. 65 million, up from 51 million, so a 28% increase up from Q3 2020, and then year over year from 2019, 84.9 million to 198.3 million, so over 100% year over year growth, 134 to be exact, very strong growth, great to see out of TerrAscend as well. And just the other thing to point out is that TerrAscend is strangely headquartered in Canada but operating in the US, and I haven't gotten into the details of how they can do that yet. Mind you, they classify themselves as an MSO, so that is likely why, although these numbers are in Canadian dollars, they're going to be switching over to US dollars in time. Now, their gross profit margin, adjusted profit, 39.2 million, up from 30.1 million, and year over year, again, 3.6 million, up to 111.3, so great to see that positive and growing in the right direction. It seems like their expenses are increasing a little bit, but that's normal as you expand and grow as a company. Now, their adjusted EBITDA did increase as well, though. Or hold on, where does it say that this was? Oh, yeah, that's from Q4. It's different when all these different balance sheets are done as nicely. But sorry, yeah, so 25.9 million, up from 17.8 million, so a 40% increase from last year, or from last quarter, sorry. And then year over year, a negative 26.6 adjusted EBITDA to a positive 60.1 adjusted EBITDA. So that's 30% growth year over year. Mind you, the main thing is that they still did suffer a net income. Their operating income is down 109.3, which is a large increase from last quarter of just 17.6. However, at a cost to expanding into new states, you have to spend money in order to do that. So the hope is that they can continue again to increase their revenues and profits at the same time to offset that. But if we look year over year, 219 million in net losses in 2019 compared to $154 million in net losses in 2020. So this does kind of show signs more of Canadian LPs as opposed to the other MSOs. But nonetheless, they did have some positive cash flow from operations, which is more to say than a lot of other companies. So seeing that 24.3 positive cash flow from operations, and then year over year from 47.9 million, negative 47.9 million in 2019 to a positive 33 million in 2020. That is growth in the right direction, which you want to see. And so they do provide their outlook. So just to jump down here, in Pennsylvania, sales and profits are expected to benefit from the annualization of multiple increases in cultivation capacity. In New Jersey, they just recently got a permit as well, so they'll be able to increase their cultivation capacity there. In California, they completed an expansion of its state flower cultivation facility in late 2020, which is expected to increase annual production capacity of super premium craft flower by 500%. It's very promising. Now, this is what's funny, right? In Canada, with a newly streamlined and target product portfolio and an optimized cost structure, TerrAscend expects to see positive contributions to sales and profit growth in 2021, which makes it sound like they're not seeing that in Canada yet. Hence, most of their profits are likely coming from the U.S. Very interesting. And then lastly, the company anticipates becoming a U.S. filer with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission by the end of 2021. They're prepared to uplist as well. And that's likely why they're giving guidance for the next year. Now, so these numbers are quite good for TerrAscend. Keep in mind they're a much smaller company compared to the big four MSOs by market cap. But fourth quarter operational highlights. I'd like to go for the full year highlights. Well, I mean, I covered all that pretty much. So we'll recap. They commenced sales of newly expanded state flower in California. So now that they're funding expansion of that, hopefully they can drive more sales in California. They realized first sales from 25% capacity expansion in Pennsylvania, which did add to their revenues, which is nice. They did close on a $120 million term loan secured by Elara Business in Pennsylvania, and they closed on a $20 million loan from Canopy Growth to the company's Arise Bioscience division. So they are obviously raising money to fund this expansion. Now, that does come at a cost to shareholders. However, still early on in the game, so just keep that long-term vision in mind because this industry is just getting started. And they announced expansion of U.S. footprint via acquisition, so they're getting into Maryland, expanding in California, and they did receive the permit recently to start cultivating in New Jersey, so they can take advantage of that market in 2021. Subsequent events, again, just covered this New Jersey expansion. So a lot of repetition going on here, but fundamentally, I think the main thing is strong year-over-year growth, and they're really focusing on U.S. operations as opposed to Canadian, and that has rewarded them. So to reiterate, their guidance is for 2021 is USD 290 million, which is roughly 364 Canadian dollars exchanged as is. So nice to see strong growth out of TerrAscend as well. Lots of potential going forward. And I just wanted to share this tweet from Natalie Fertig, who covers cannabis policy for Politico. There are very few credible cannabis reporters out there. Obviously, Tom Engel with Marijuana Moment is one of them. Todd Harrison is more of a former Wall Street guy, so he knows how that works. Yet he is clearly a believer in the cannabis industry, as well as many more people seem to be becoming. But having someone in the know from Politico saying the Safe Banking Act will be reintroduced in the Senate tomorrow by Jeff Merkley, who I think he's a Republican, or at least Steve Daines is a Republican from Montana. But so the fact that this is being reintroduced by one Republican shows that it is bipartisan, which is what we want to see, and just shows that it doesn't really show that it has more of a chance to pass. Mind you, just to explain what reintroduced means, because, even when I'm saying, hey, the Safe Banking Act will be reintroduced in the House, this is awesome, doesn't mean the vote is happening anytime soon. The more I learn about politics, the more it frustrates me, but, patience is key in investing. So how does it get reintroduced? Does that mean it already passed the House and will move to the Senate? It's reintroduced because it was introduced last Congress. Now, what happened, I think, in February was Congress ended its 119th session and started the 120th session. Whatever that means any bill that was introduced and did not end up passing gets taken out, therefore you have to reintroduce them. So that was the whole backstory behind the House, or the Safe Banking Act being reintroduced into the House. And that's something I didn't connect the dots until just now. So obviously do want to share with you. But yes, it also passed the House last Congress. It'll have to repass the House this year, which it should fairly easily. But this is the whole idea, is that the system of introducing and voting to pass, whenever a Congress finishes its session and the new one starts, you have to reintroduce everything. So it's just great to see that, let's say this new session, or this new Congress session did restart in February, considering the fact that SAFE has been reintroduced into the House and will be reintroduced into the Senate tomorrow by March 23rd. That's pretty fast for politics, if you ask me. So just wanted to point that out, folks. But I'm super stoked with how Trulieve did. This is awesome to see. And again, we're just waiting for Cresco out of the big 4 MSOs to release on Thursday. And obviously, we hope for more positive developments. But let me know what you think. Were you impressed by Trulieve's numbers? Did you expect more? And do you think the momentum is still behind us? I definitely do. So let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. Make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss any new videos coming out. And I'll be back tomorrow for a midweek update. Have a great day, everybody.